Scott, good afternoon. Let's talk about the new venture of the club heading into next season. A new department, effectively, a new football wing of things, if I can put it like that. The under-21s. Now, you're responsible for the recruitment side of things. Let's go right back to the start. Firstly, why was the under-21s set up heading into this season, this new season, as we can now call it?
I think we looked at the gap probably between the first team and youth level at 18s. So we've got, lads coming to the end of their scholarship age now at 18, and the gap between going into the first team and making an impact and obviously sort of playing in a reserve level. We didn't have that last year as a club. We sort of withdrew from the reserve league, so the boys had no throughput to go and get game time and almost test themselves at a bit more of a physical level than youth football. So we felt that there was a big hole, almost like a space where a lot of players end up at 18 not having an opportunity to go and test themselves at a 21s level. We haven't got a 21s, and obviously that was the natural progression to put that in place, so the boys have got more time to develop.
You speak about the advantages for the players there who'll be playing in that side. What are the advantages for the club?
I think it will almost give players that we would have to normally call upon at 18 to see if they're good enough, or almost like part ways with players at 18. We can let them have another couple of years in the system to see if they develop further, whether it be physical, whether it be tactical, whether a different element of development that they haven't yet hit at 18. I think within recent years we'd have had to let those players go, and I think for the football club the benefit will be having almost give the boys a little bit more time and hopefully get more homegrown talent on a pitch, and I think that's what this opportunity should do, and I believe will do.
So in terms of the actual under-21 squad, how many players will be a part of that squad?
We're looking to recruit 20 players for the squad for next season. 4 of those players will be given professional contracts at the club for a 2-year period. So we've already concluded those players now, and 3 of those 4 players are youngsters that come through our system, which is fantastic for those, because it proves that we get them into a professional contract, which is what they've worked hard for sort of 2 years. 16 of the rest of the squad will be non-contract players or non-professional players, and they will all 20 of them will do a degree with our partner Brooksby Mountain College, and study a foundation degree in sports science. So it gives the boys a bit of a backup that within that 2-year period, if they don't make an impact in the first team, or they're unsuccessful and don't get a career out of the game, at least they leave with academic qualifications that will set them up to go and get maybe a job not on the pitch but in the sporting environment, but maybe somewhere else.
So you're in charge of the recruiting, as we said earlier. How are you going about the process of finding those 16 elite players? Because that's what they are. It's only a small number, 16.
Correct, yeah, that's right, Steve. We're going through numerous vetting processes, trial games, speaking to academy managers, speaking to scouts, speaking to agents that have all got contacts and players on their books that are maybe coming out of a scholarship age at 18, or coming to the end of the scholarship that they haven't managed to secure a professional contract, or a player that's come out of a first-year pro contract at 19 and just hasn't managed to secure another contract on top of that. So they're the main targets, really, because these boys have now got the option. Well, they haven't had the option previously to go anywhere. So we're putting the 21s option forward to say, look, this is another further opportunity for you to progress now for 2 years, and see if you can develop and try and make inroads into our first team here at Mansfield.
Can people actually apply for a trial?
Yeah, we have done previously, sort of before the season come to an end, we have done open sort of invites, if you like, in terms of sending your CV into to us at the academy, and obviously the right candidates that have been vetted will be invited in for training or invited in for pre-season, where then they'll be looked upon as being candidates to come and join the squad. We are quite further down the line now in terms of our recruitment. We're up to sort of 70% recruited for the squad, so we are looking now for a last push really to get the last final few players in and on board, so that we can put the squad together and then sort of go pre-season and make a plan of attack for pre-season for games and training.
My assumption is there'll be a lot of players in the relevant age level watching this interview. How can they apply if they're interested?
Well, they can attach a CV and maybe a covering letter of where they are or what clubs they're at, where they've trialled at, for instance, and send it into our academy email, which is academy@mansfieldtown.net, and leave a contact detail or leave a telephone number, and we'll be sure to get back to every candidate that emails in to let them know what the next process is in terms of our recruitment.
So from a player's perspective who, say, has been successful in this process, Scott, give us an insight into their day-to-day programme for next season.
So what we've tried to do is give the boys an experience that would be similar to that of the first team. And we've tried to mirror the programme so that, should they make the transition between 21s to the first team, they're not having to sort of change their day-to-day training regime as such. So it mirrors it a little bit. The boys would be educated for 50% of their involvement with the club, and they'd be football coach for 50% of the involvement, and they would play their football in the reserve league, which the football club are entering for next season, solely for the under-21s squad. So those players will get prime access to that league, which is very competitive and also viewed by our first team staff on a weekly basis. So they'll be putting themselves in the shop window in front of our first team staff on a number of occasions where, it only takes one opportunity to pop up where, maybe the gaffer wants a certain style of player or needs to backfill the squad for training or even maybe a game. And these 21 boys will be in a prime position to go and affect and go and secure something within our first team.
Seems to me like a very enticing pathway to the senior side.
I think it's probably as good as what you're going to see without having a professional contract at another club. I speak to numerous players daily, really, about what sort of stage they're at and what opportunity they're getting, even though they're on a contract at a club. And there's been lads that are contracted to clubs but just still don't get no game time or don't get anywhere within their club because there's that many players in front of them that are 22, 23, 24, maybe even 19, 20. So they find it very difficult to get opportunity. We're going to carry, we feel, the right number of players for next season for the squad that will, every one of them, have an opportunity at some point throughout the season to play a number of games in our reserve team, which is one step down from our first team. So in terms of where they can go from there, it literally is into the first team squad. And I'm pretty sure, and I've heard Adam almost comment about the 21s and how important that will be next year to his recruitment, because my understanding is that the Football League transfer window is slightly different next year, and almost when Adam's done his business pre and post window, he won't have anywhere else to go during that period of time. So having a fully fledged under 21 team in place that are full of young talented footballers will only probably excite Adam in terms of looking into that and dipping in and taking players into the first team environment.
Last few questions from me, Scott. Can you tell us what type of teams you'll be playing against in the Under-21s League next season? How often you'll be playing and where?
Yes, the league consisted, last time we was in it, of teams such as Doncaster Rovers, Burton Albion, Chesterfield, Notts County, Hartlepool, I think Scunthorpe were in it. So, there's some very, very well-established Football League clubs right through the tiers, who will all have young pros and youth team players playing in that standard. So it's a great shot window for these boys to go and put themselves on. It's not a diluted reserve league. It's not something which has just been made up. It is a fully fledged football reserve league, and I think when we played our home games last year, they was actually played here at the One Call Stadium. So, you know, and the away fixtures were played at fellow sort of first team grounds, or even clubs that was associated local to that. So, you know, decent pitches, decent stadiums.
Are they weekly fixtures, fortnightly?
Yeah, the fixtures can fall weekly. Then, you know, depending on the way that the league sets, Steve-O, to be honest, I think we pretty much had a fixture every week for majority of the season. I think it just depends on how many teams enter the league year to year, but we haven't had the final conclusion yet back of how many teams have entered, and also how big the league will be and what teams are in it. But going off when we were in it last time, those were some of the teams that were involved in it.
Thanks for your time, Scott.
No problem, Steve-O.